Hello again and welcome back. My name's Annie and this is my creative detour. Today I'm going to do one more project in my packaging journal that I created for Scraptember 2025, and it is ran by Margaret from Seven Plaza and Toni from Crafty by Toni. So I will link their channels below. So I have decided to do the prompt envelopes. Today I'm going to be using old envelopes and turning them into flip pockets. So let's get started and I'll show you what we're going to be doing. Okay, so I've done quite a bit of prep. I didn't want this video to be too long, but I stopped at the decorating stage. So I have stuck down a whole lot of scrap paper, made the flips, and we'll decorate them together. So let me show you the first one. I just used an old envelope and that had been opened up with a window. And this one, I made it into a flip this way. It has two pockets. So you can see here that in the window of the pocket, I have put a butterfly. And I've stuck that onto a tag that is in the pocket. So you can see that I have layered up just bits of scrap, some old dictionary. I think it's got Italian writing. And there's some of that instruction out of my typewriter book, How to Learn to Type. And then this is some collage soup. So they were just out of my scrap bin. And then on the inside, you can see that once again, some collage soup, some old scrap paper. This was brown paper left over from doing the journal. And this is left over from one of my full deck challenges. And this is left over from months and months ago. Essentially, there are two tags. This one says butterflies, and it has just a tab on it with an eyelet and some collage soup botanical, and somewhere to journal. And then on the back, just another floral and some more space to journal, and you can see it's some leftover scrap. So that's what's in the first pocket. And then in the second pocket, there's a smaller tag. I haven't bothered doing the back of this one. I just sort of think it's a good journaling spot, but I have decorated the front of it just with some leftover delicatessen paper from the supermarket. So that's what that one is, and that's some collage soup. And I'll just pop that one in there. So let's have a little look at how I made it. So we'll turn to the front. You can see here, there's our envelope. I have just folded it around about here, like that. And then I have collaged on the front just with some scrap paper. And you can see that I have torn out where the window is and then torn out this piece. So I've just tore out two pieces and laid them over the top of each other to create the hole and just some other scrap leftover paper. Then when we open it, flip it up, you can see that I've not collaged over the fold. I purposely have left that so that it opens really easily. I did run a small bead of glue down on that fold and then glued that down. Then I inked it, so I folded it like this and I inked it just along the fold so that the inking was visible. And then I ripped up bits of scrap paper, glued it on there and on there, and created my tags. So it's really easy to do, and you can see that on the back it hasn't been covered. So I will glue that onto my page. Now, if you wanted to, you could actually create another pocket at the back, but I'm not going to bother doing that. I'm just going to glue it down, but the option is there for you to do that if you want to. Now, obviously, this one is a flip up, and the next one we're going to do is a flip out. But let's decorate this one first, and then I'll show you the next one. Now I have a few little things in my tray that I've laid out a little bit. I'm going to use some All and Create washi tape, and I think this is number 13. I've got it written on the inside. So we're going to use some washi. I also have some butterflies and just some labels, and I have the number 5. And I also have some leftover happy scraps from my full deck challenge that I'm going to use so that, you know, they get used up as well. I've got quite a few leftovers. So let's put something together on here. I'm just going to make a little bit of a collage. I have, like I said, the number 5. I'm going to lay that over my happy scrap and pop that on. We might move that over a little bit. And what else do I have? I've got a butterfly, and I've got a few circles because I like to put the circles in groups of 3. So let's put circle over here, tuck that under his wing. Okay, so let's glue down a few things. I'm going to put my washi over here, and I think I'll glue this on next. This is a die-cut chipboard piece of ephemera, and it's from Uniquely Creative. Now I want to stamp on this actually. I want to stamp something on it. So let's work that out. Okay, I've just pulled off a stamp from Tony's The Adventurer, and I'm just going to stamp some numbers on there. I might glue this one down, ink it. This it says Natural History and Specimens, and then it's got a flower name on it, but I'm going to cover most of that up. I think this is a Tracy Fox label. I had lots of fun actually making these, using up some of my envelopes, which is always good. We seem to get quite a lot of envelopes. All right, let's tuck that in there. Now this label here is one of Margaret's printables. I'm not sure which one, I'm sorry. I might just scrunch it a bit and make it a little bit rougher. I have been having to work quite a bit lately, so I'm quite a bit behind with my videos. I'm sorry about that, guys. I've got quite a few shifts coming up, which is great. It does mean that I probably won't be doing as many videos over the next few weeks, but when I'm not working, I'll do as many as I can. Okay, I like that number 5 on there, and number 5 is one of the prompts. So let's put a hole in that, and we'll push that through actually. I'm going to put a brad on it, pop my fingers in here, and try not to puncture myself. Got to go through quite a few layers, and I just have a little brad. Yeah, that looks pretty good, doesn't it? I know that it's silver, but we've got to work with what we've got. And I've got a piece of my happy scrap here that I'll just glue over the top of that brad on the inside, so that when I'm putting the tag in and out, it doesn't catch on it. I'm just going to glue that over the top of the split pin and let that set. Yeah, that's good. I'm happy with that. And what else did I have? I had a butterfly, so let's ink him up. This is out of some of Tim Holtz's ephemera. And I'm just going to tuck that under its wing. Yes, when I use a circle in a composition, and I love using circles, I usually like to use 3 and repeat them in a bit of a triangular pattern. All right, let's do a little bit on the inside. Now I have pulled out butterfly and another Tracy Fox label with a number for our butterfly and a little piece of ephemera out of one of the very small Tim Holtz ephemera packs when it had all the tiny little things in it. And it says enclosure. I'm just going to group that there. Let's just get everything in the right spot. Yes, I had lots of fun putting these together today. Let's glue that on there. I might use art glitter glue. I have a very, very happy son-in-law because he went to the semi-finals tonight for the rugby league here in Australia, NRL it's called. We have 3 different types of football here, what people around the world would call football. Now, football in some countries is what we call soccer. So we don't call soccer football, it's soccer. So that's one. Then we have Australian rules. And Australian rules is a football that was invented here in Australia, and it's like no other football that's played anywhere else in the world. There's lots of catching the ball and jumping up and then running with it and then kicking long distances. I don't actually watch AFL, so I don't know a lot of the rules about that. But we had the grand final for that here in Brisbane yesterday, and the Lions, the Brisbane Lions, they actually won the grand final, so that was super exciting. And then this afternoon, the Brisbane team, which for the NRL, which is the National Rugby League, which is what my son-in-law follows, he went to the semi-finals for that, and the Brisbane Broncos won, which means that they're in the grand final. So we may actually end up with, if we win next week, we might end up with 2 football teams winning, which would be wonderful. Now, what was I going to do with this? The happy scraps were so much fun to make, and I keep pulling them out and using them, and I'm thrilled about it, to be honest. And this says notes and endorsement, so I'm just pretending that that is the notes and endorsement, kind of like some sort of legal document. Just gluing a few things down to create a little cluster, and I have a stamped number 5 from Tim Holtz. There we go. I'm happy with that. Let's cut off those. And we've got to glue our butterfly on. Yes, so unfortunately I didn't get to do as many things in this journal as I'd hoped because I had more shifts at work that I was doing, which is important. I will continue to use this journal and do different compositions in it at different times, especially when I'm using packaging or, using scraps. I'll definitely use this one. Okay, let's put this back together. And there's our first flip out of our envelope. And we've used the prompt envelope and we've used the prompt number 5. Yes, we've got flower. We've used paint because I've used some of my painted happy scraps, so that was good. And I've used packaging. I think that's it, actually. I think that's all. That's pretty good. There's quite a few prompts in there. So that one there, I'm going to put that into my journal. But before we do that, let's move on and decorate the next one. Okay, the next one, I've got a few washes that I might use. I'm not sure. And I have some people for this one. So let's sit them to the side. and I'll show you my flip envelope. Okay, this one I went down a little bit of a story actually. I created this little story about two people here. Here they are, and they're a Tim Holtz paper doll. And I've named them Catalina and Ivan, but it's probably Ivan because they're from Hungary. Their last name is Kovacs. Now, I did a little bit of research, and surnames in Hungary, they reflect what you do. Now, Kovacs is for somebody who is a smith, so either a silversmith or a tinsmith, that blacksmith, something like that. So I've got those, and you can see that I've done some collage onto my envelope, and I'll show you how I made my envelope. So this one, we have it like this, and I've folded it just the same, but instead of it going vertically, I've kept it horizontal. And then I've collaged on the front, and I've collaged on the inside. But what I did was I actually opened up this side. So let's do that so that you know what I did. So I opened up this side, and I did it with a better knife than this, but let's go with it. Then what I did was, because I really liked the red bank, this is from a bank here in Australia, and I liked the pattern on the inside, and it was my inspiration for the whole colour palette actually. And what I did then was I folded back the envelope to here and created a tuck spot, and I actually glued that down. So I glued down this flap here, and then I covered it with some map so that I could create a tuck spot here. And I also collaged this side as well. So I collaged on here, and then I left the paper just there because I wanted to keep that. So that's how I manipulated the envelope for this one. Our story here is that Catalina here and Ivan, after the First World War, they emigrated to the UK, to Britain. And that's why I have some road maps here of London. Now, admittedly, these are of the 1970s, but we're not going to get too hung up on the dates. And they lived in they rented in a little flat, and it was near a common, so that they could go and they would wander around and go for walks. And then, because he was such a good blacksmith and there was a shortage of trades in Australia, the opportunity for them to emigrate to Australia happened. So they moved to Australia. He started working as a blacksmith. And Catalina here, she changed her name when she moved to Australia to Kath, like Kath and Kim. And Kath's more of an Australian name than Catalina, so she switched to Kath. They moved to Australia in the early 1920s, and this is their wedding photo. Once they were here, they worked and they saved all their money, and they decided that it was time to buy a house. So on here, I have things about buying their first house, but let's put them on. So I'm going to stamp. This one says, see the other side, because all the information is on the other side. So let's do that, and we'll glue them on. When I'm doing collage work, I love telling stories, and that's what my channel is about actually. If you read my description, it says about telling stories. There we go. Let's stick them on. So I've just used scrap pieces of paper. You can see that there's some typing paper there and some maps. Okay, so we have them, and we'll cut off their feet later. And you can see now that the front of it has some contract information. So it's about whether they can get insurance and what their property is going to be insured for. And then the declaration here and the date. Now you can see the date here. Ivan needs to sign this. So we can see him, the date is May 1928, and he needs to sign down here. So let's do that. So we'll go for 12th of May 1928, and we'll sign it Ivan Kovacs. Let's stamp a few things on the front here. They're buying a house, and here's their house, and it is a 1920s property. So it says here, photo below show a typical war service home of 1920s. In 1924, this sort of house cost around about £800 on the deposit of about £150. So they bought a house similar to this one. Let's stick that on so that I've got that information. So there's their house, and you can see that it's just got some dictionary paper. I pulled this out of a yesteryear's encyclopedia of Australia. And this is one of the drawings that I've done in the past for some architectural work that I did. So I just pulled out one of my drawings. And we've got the Safeguard Insurance Company here that we're working on. And on the back, we've got a planting plan that Kath is going to do in their garden of medicinal herbs. That looks fun, doesn't it? She's an avid gardener, Kath, or Catalina. Stamp a few things on the face of this. I'm going to go statement. Oh, that looks good. Oh, I've got one of these. Now this I think is Margaret's printable. And I have a postage stamp from Australia that I'm going to put on. But let's stamp a few things on here. Actually, let's pull out Toni's. It's the identification, and it's got lots of lovely little numbers and things on it. So let's do some of those. There we go. That looks all right. And that can go on there. Okay. Put a little bit of ink on this. And on our certification document, our seal. It's like a seal, isn't it? Let's put that on, and our postage stamp can go underneath. This is a real Australian postage stamp, and I've got no idea if it's worth some money or not, but it's going on. We'll go collect it over here. Oh, look, they've just been certified by their house. How exciting for them to have moved here and then be able to buy a house. Now let's slide this in and see what it looks like. Oh, look, there's their house. Doesn't it look wonderful? Okay, let's put some things. I've got a few things to go on this one. I have a label. I have a number 5. We might need a seal. Okay, so let's have a little look where we're up to. I did finish off a few things. My battery on my phone died, so I had to charge my phone. So I was almost up to finishing anyway, but let's have a little look at where we're at. I think we were up to doing this stamping on here. So I finished that, and just on the back I've just stapled on some of Kath's intended herbs that she's going to grow in her garden. So we've got ground covered herbs and tall growing herbs. So just a few things there. And you can see that we have finished the stamping. We've got number 5, and that is the house number. And then we've got the registered approval number and some information on there, and that's their new house that they're going to buy. So let's add that into the pocket. I'll show you it in the pocket. So there we go. It looks nice in the pocket. You can see the house through the window, and you can see that on the front this has got the information about the insurance on the property and that it has been certified and registered. Now, in the little tuck spot here that we created, I have put together a few little bits and pieces that Kath has started collecting. So this is their insurance document that they have to fill out that they haven't done yet. They're going to need to do that. And you can see that I just got that out of the typing book actually. And then I've put in here a few things that were on my desk, a few scraps. So you can see that there's a paint swatch. There's some of the fabric that is off of the Christmas journal that I just made. And then this is some of the tea bag and brown paper embossing that I did as well. So let's stick that in the tuck spot, and I will glue that into a journal at some point, and I'll probably glue the whole page down, but I'll put that into my stash at the moment. But in the meantime, let's open up my packaging journal and put in the butterfly one that we made. So here's the butterfly one, and it's a flip up. So let's find somewhere that we like the look of it. Now I think that with the tabs on the left hand side, I think I want it on a left hand side page. Oh, I think I like it on this one. Let's pop it on there. That'll look good, and then it can lift up. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put glue onto the back of the envelope, and I'm going to give it a decent amount of glue. Now, like I said, you could make this into another pocket if you wanted to. I'm not going to worry about that. I want it to stick really well and stay stable. And I'm going to shimmy it to the left hand side. Let's lift that up so I can see. All right, I'll give that a really good burnish. There we go. That looks good in the journal, doesn't it? I'm really happy with that. And I like that there's some spots to do some journaling. Fabulous. Okay, so there's our 2 envelope flip pockets that we made out of envelopes and scrap, and we used the prompt envelopes and the number 5, and I think we used a little bit of texture and some flowers and a few other prompts as well, but mostly the envelope and number 5. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. If you like the envelope flips and the story behind them, give the video a like. That'd be wonderful. And subscribe to the channel. Have a great week creating something fun and new, everyone. And I'll see you all very soon with another project. Thanks again. Bye for now.